My name is Kylie Danielle D'Souza, and that's my real name and my legal name still, but my Islamic name is Khadija, and I'm Khadija Rashid. Basically, I've lived in Canada for almost 2 years now, and I used to live in Dubai. I love being a Muslim, and I've been a Muslim for about 10 years now, and I think it was the best decision I made in my life. Well, I was raised in Dubai, and both my parents were Catholics, very staunch Catholics, I might add. And I'm the only child, so I used to enjoy all my parents' love, but doesn't mean I'm spoiled. But I grew up in a very religious family, and I think God had a place in our house. Like he took precedence over everything. Like I remember when we would sit down to eat, my dad would always say your prayers first, even if it was like 2 lines. Then we would say grace before meals, grace after meals. We would go to church, we would pray in the morning, pray at night. My grandmother, my dad's mother, was very religious. We would say, Catholics say a prayer called the Rosary. It's basically a long prayer, but it's kind of like the tasbih, but much longer. So she would make us say it every day. So religion was an important part of our lives. And I mean, just helping out people, trying to be very simple. I think the festivals are probably the things I remember the most. Christmas was really, really special in our house. It's not about what you see today. Christmas is so commercial. I mean, Christmas is not the decorations. I know a lot of Muslims think, oh, Christmas is just about, the Christmas tree and Santa Claus. No, Christmas is very important because it's the birth of Jesus. And if you look at Christmas, the way it happened, Jesus was born in a stable, according to Christianity. So it was not, for us, it was not about, yes, we did have decorations and stuff, but our decorations were special. They were like heirlooms. My mom had them for years, and we would collect them. And what I remember most was every Christian usually has a crib in their house. So we had a very special one. We had one that came from Jerusalem. It was made out of olive wood. And my mom would always say, we would go to midnight mass first. So most people think Christmas is all about parties, but not for us. My dad would always say that, no, it's the birth of Jesus. We have to go to church first. So bang, at midnight, we were at church. So we would welcome Christmas in a holy way, the way it was supposed to be. And my mother would always say, baby Jesus would not go in the crib till we leave for midnight mass. Until today, if I see a crib before Christmas, I always tell my husband, look, it should not be there before that, because that's what my mom would say. And I mean, Christmas for us was just being with family. We never had like the big parties people did. Our house was open. So in Dubai, we had a lot of Muslim friends. My parents, they would come, they would celebrate a meal with us. And of course, everything was halal there, right? So they would come, they would sit, they would eat sweets with us, have dinner with us. And everybody would say Christmas in your house was special because you could feel the love and you could feel that God was everywhere, And I think what I remember most was my grandmother, my dad's mother. She would make all these sweets a month in advance. And what she would do, she would make, she would start with her sweets. And the first thing she would do when she would make them out of dough, she would form a little cross. And she would fry it. And then she would start. So basically, it's kind of like doing it with Bismillah, but in the Christian way, right? And I would always remember that in anything, whether she made like rotis or anything that she would make, she would do that. And for us, it was all about religion and, I mean, being a good person, trying to help everybody. So I think I had a wonderful childhood. And this is probably what helped me make my decision to become a Muslim. The Trinity crossed my mind a million times, but my parents were like, oh, you should never, don't ask, I mean, you just have to believe. A lot of Christianity is based on just blind faith, and I've seen that. I mean, we went to religious classes as well, like the madrasa, but ours was catechism, basically. So everything was kind of vague with that. I mean, I was thinking, how can God be 3 people? And I was always told, like, don't question, just believe. And my parents still do that right now, I mean, I'm not saying anything about their faith, but for me, it just never stuck. And I did identify myself as a Christian, but I felt something was missing. So, I mean, I felt that for a long time and I never realized why till later, till I became an adult and I was able to make my own decisions. That's when I realized that something was missing from my life. Well, I had a very strong relationship with the Bible. I read it as a child and I thought it was really special because my mom had given me this beautiful picture Bible. So it helped me, and it was a whole Bible from the Old Testament to the New. And it had the stories, but basically for the children. And it had beautiful pictures. So that was my first recollection of the Bible. And I liked it. It was beautiful. I mean, it had beautiful stories and morals. But unfortunately for me, I felt that it shouldn't have been changed. Because, I mean, I know there are a lot of versions now, and I unfortunately have a problem with the fact that Christianity has been changed. It's not in its original form, and that really was one of my reasons why I wanted to find something that was still pure and something that hadn't been changed. But yes, I still respect the Bible, and I love the Bible very much till today. I've always had a close connection to Islam because I was born and raised in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, and there was Islam everywhere. My parents had a lot of Muslim friends. We would go and celebrate Eid together and Ramadan. It was basically like all of us were fasting because in Dubai you weren't allowed to eat from dawn to dusk. So it was as if we were fasting too. And I mean, actually tried fasting sometimes to just see what it felt like. But for me, there was always something drawing me to Islam. I've always had more Muslim friends than Christians, and every time I would hear the adhan, something would happen to me. I would feel like some kind of charge in my body. And I never realized what was happening until later. So for me, I go way back with Islam, and alhamdulillah for that. Since I grew up in Dubai, Islam was all around you. So, I mean, it became part of your life. And, sometimes things are just there. I had a lot of Muslim friends and, Ramadan and the Quran, hearing the adhan every day. Yes, I did have a lot of Muslim friends. So we used to sit and we used to talk. And I never felt right being a Christian. I always felt something was missing. So we would just have casual discussions about, the Quran and the Bible and just general things, and looking around, seeing, eating halal food, I think also played a real part in it. Because in Dubai, everything is halal, and people say that you should eat halal food and the effects it has on you. So I think that living in Dubai really helped me understand Islam better. And I think it was always a part of me, and I never realized it till I was an adult. In school, all our friends had Quran, Islamic class, and a lot of my friends would go to like priests to learn the Quran. So sometimes my friend, she's a Sunni, and I used to play at her house a lot, and the priest would come and teach her. And I would hear these words, and they just sounded so beautiful, and they're like magnetic, they draw you to it. And I started to like that. And we can read Arabic, right? Because in Dubai, we had to learn Arabic. So we can read and write Arabic. And I mean, we didn't understand it, but there was just something about the words that would just, make me just want to stop and listen. And even when my parents would hear, they'd say, it's really beautiful. I mean, it just calls you, and it really I felt as if it was saying, come. So it's beautiful, and it's such an important book, and I just love it, mashallah. It's my favorite book in the whole world. For me, the hijab, I think, was one of the easiest things I've ever done. I never thought that it would be a problem for me because I was a Christian, and Catholics, they believe in the Virgin Mary, right? Bibi Maryam. And if you've noticed, have you, in any Christian picture or a statue of Bibi Maryam, have you ever seen her without her hijab? No. And so for me, it was, I think, the easiest thing I ever did. And I can't imagine myself without it now. It's such a beautiful thing. People think that women are oppressed when they wear the hijab. In fact, it's the total opposite. I feel so much freedom now. I feel at peace wearing the hijab, and it commands so much of respect. And it takes guts and courage to wear this. People think that, just because you wear a hijab, you can't make your own decisions. And in fact, I feel like emancipated since I've started wearing the hijab. And I would tell everybody to wear it, because once you wear it, it's like a whole new world for you, I love it, and I don't think that anybody, I mean, people who don't wear it, they should try it. And I tell everybody, if I can wear a hijab, anybody can wear a hijab. And I think it's the best thing for a woman to wear. My reversion, I think, happened over a period of years. I was always having questions, but I think once I started university, when I had a lot of Muslim friends, we would have a lot of time between classes. So we would sit and we would talk, and they would talk about Imam Hussein, and I was always wondering, what is this? Because people would talk about a lot of people have very negative images of Shias. They do matam and they beat their chest. People say they do it senselessly. So I said, tell me about it. And I found myself being mesmerized hearing this story. And I remember when I heard the story of what happened on Ashura, I just cried and I cried and I cried, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. So, I mean, I think that started. So it was, I guess, over a period of 3 or 4 years. Because my parents are very staunch Christians, and they knew for some time, I think. I think they could see it coming because I had a lot of Muslim friends, and I was always hanging around with Muslims, and I sort of had, I think, a Muslim inclination. I think in their hearts they knew it, but it was really hard because, I mean, you raise your child to be something, and then they go and do that. I mean, I think they were a little hurt, but then they realized that I was at peace. I had that inner peace that I was looking for, and I was very happy. I think my parents just wanted me to be okay. Being their only child, they wanted me to be happy and they wanted me to be safe. And then my dad, he had the hardest time taking it. But after some time, he realized, he said, I've never seen you so happy and so secure with your life. So if this is your choice, then go ahead, we will accept it. And they did. And once I became a Muslim, they were very respectful of my decision. And even when they moved back to India, so I would go and visit them. Of course, that was after I was married. You don't have halal food sometimes in India, but my dad would make sure everything was halal for me. So I could see that. And he was so happy to see that I'm happy. And he's like, you believe in God and you have found that God is important? I'm very happy. So alhamdulillah. I guess just the fact that you change your religion. I mean, I would shudder to think if my child came and told me, everything that you've taught me, I've gone against. But I would say that it took them some time, but Islam and Christianity are very similar in a lot of ways. And I think because we lived in a Muslim country, it was easier for them because they saw everything that was going on. And the Muslims we knew were wonderful people. So I think that was good for them. I wasn't actually influenced by the media because in Dubai, the media is censored. So you only see Islam in a good light. So no, I wasn't. The hardest thing for me was Jesus not dying on the cross, Nabi Isa not dying on the cross. Because when I grew up, for us, it was all about how Jesus sacrificed his life on the cross. So for me to believe that Jesus wasn't crucified on the cross was hard for me because I grew up with a cross always in front of me and believing that Jesus suffered and died on the cross. So for me, that was the hardest thing to believe. But once I became a Muslim and time passed, I did realize that it was a good thing for him not to have been crucified on the cross. That was very hard for me. Alhamdulillah, my first year as a Muslim was, I think, one of the best ones of my life. It was a learning curve, and I learned a lot. I also went through a lot of things, but I think that year made me very strong. I had a lot of support from people when I became a Muslim, not only from Shias, but Sunnis as well. Everybody would come and help me. If I needed to go to the mosque, people would come. They would take me to majalis, and they would come and, they offered to teach me things, namaz and things like that, and I owe them a lot. So I had a lot of help. The Ahlul Bayt are, to me, I think they're just perfect. I had never heard such a story about the Ahlul Bayt before. And, the way they suffered for God, for Allah, and the things that they did. And you can identify with them. They have taught us so many things that you don't need to look anywhere else. You don't need any other role models. All you have to do is just follow them. So when I heard their story, for me, I think it just struck a chord with me. hearing about them, what they did, how they believed in Allah, and how much they suffered for Allah, that was very important for me. That's why I chose the name Khadija. Because when I heard about her, I thought I identified myself with her because she went through a lot of troubles. And Bibi Khadija, she sacrificed everything. For me, that was the same thing because I sacrificed everything to become a Muslim as well. So Bibi Khadija was probably the one personality that influenced me. Alhamdulillah, I have been for Umrah and I've been to Sham as well. So yes, I've had the opportunity to visit the Ahlul Bayt. My experience with visiting the Ahlul Bayt, I think, was the most beautiful experience of my life. My first ziyarat was going to Bibi Zainab in Sham, and I remember just walking towards our haram, and I was recalling all the stories about her and how she suffered, and I just couldn't move. When I went there and I touched her dhari, something just started flowing in me and I just started crying, and it was such an honor to be there. And even when we went for Umrah to go to Masjid al-Nabawi, sitting there, I think is the most peaceful place on earth. When we were coming, we were approaching in the cab, I could see the green dome, and it was my husband's first Umrah as well. And both of us were just sitting there and we were just looking at that green dome and thinking, mashallah, how blessed we are. And I hope, inshallah, I get to go again. But my one dream is to go and visit Imam Hussein. Inshallah, hopefully I will get the chance to. My first Muharram was, I think, the biggest life-changing experience for me because I was very nervous. I mean, I've heard of things, what go on there, and I didn't know how I would take it. And it was difficult because I was working at the time, and going to the mosque for 10 days was pretty hard. But when I went there, I didn't know what to expect. I was new still in the mosque and I hardly knew anybody. So I was, feeling shy. But when I sat down and when I went inside the mosque, I was just overwhelmed with grief because you can see everybody, they have that love for Imam Hussein inside them, and it resonates on their face, their actions. And when I heard the majlis and I was hearing the stories, that was my first time as a Muslim, so that I think it gets you even more. And I wait for the next Muharram to come because it's so beautiful. And I always think that people who don't know Imam Hussein, they need to learn about him because he's so amazing, and it's just wonderful to be a lover of the Ahlul Bayt. For me, the lessons of Karbala, I think all of them have inspired me, but for me, the first one is to have faith in Allah. If you look at what happened to them, they accepted it and they had the faith to say, okay, Allah has decided this for me and Allah is going to do what is best for me. So I think that was one of the most important things, to have faith and to trust Allah, because He's the only one around. And I mean, if you can see people like Yazid, they had absolutely no belief in Allah. And for me, if you can't see that Allah is around you and Allah has created everything, and the fact that you do something against the Prophet and his family, I think that was the first thing that you should realize, that Allah is there and He's important. And for me, I think the lesson of family, because for me, my family is very important. And if you see how all of Imam Hussein's family rallied around him, even his nephews, his young daughter, his infant son, that's very important as well. I think you're doing an excellent job of spreading the message of the Ahlul Bayt. I mean, I think Ahlul Bayt TV's been around for about 3 or 4 years and 5 years. And the fact that now, mashallah, you're all over the world and you're broadcasting everywhere, I think that's beautiful. And I wish I can do more to help you in any way. People who are born Muslims are definitely trying to spread the message of the Ahlul Bayt all over the world, especially in the West. And I mean, it's hard to do that as well. I mean, the fact that people actually see women and going outside in their hijab, and I mean, having mosques everywhere where everybody's welcome, I think you guys are doing a great job. I do have some advice for people who are considering becoming a Muslim. You should always follow your heart, because your heart will always tell you and it will always lead you to the right path. And if you're thinking of becoming a Muslim, that means Allah is calling you, because I'm speaking from a first-hand experience. I think I probably didn't understand what was happening to me over my life, But I realized it later that Allah does call you. And when He does call you, you're probably one of the select few who is being guided to the right path. So yes, you should answer the call. I know it's hard, but I mean, Allah will help you. And if He's shown you the right way, you should take it. It's been a great honor actually to be on Ahlul Bayt and to tell my story. And inshallah, I hope I inspire other people to do so as well.